Welcome back to Halden Marine Service. I'm JT Halden, and today we're going to look at coils on Watermakers. The Spectre uses a lot of coils for your product diversion valves and for your freshwater flushes. These things can give you a little bit of a trouble if you don't understand what we're dealing with. What I want to do first is show you the different kind of coils that we do use that you'll see on your system. These are all your automated systems, anywhere from your 150s all the way up to your Farallons, your 1000s, or what have you. Use these coils. These can give us a little bit of a problem if you don't understand what's going on. So I'm going to give you a quick explanation on these. These are kind of the coils that we do use. You'll see manifolds like this. Of course, all the plumbing's off. This would be inside the feed pump module, and the coil sits right on top. You'll see these a lot. Okay, freshwater flush coils will be in different positions near your charcoal filter. Some of them will be in the feed pump module, but they're there. Okay, it's depending on what model you have, and a lot of other Watermaker companies use the same type of coils, same systems. Okay, I'm not a huge fan of coils, not these type of coils. These coils are great for what they're truly intended for. You'll see a lot of these coils in industry factories where they're using pneumatics, air switching for different pieces of equipment. They'll open and close for a second or two perfectly fine. They'll do that thousands and thousands of times. Where we have a problem in the Watermaker world with coils is we just don't open and close them for a couple seconds at a time. A lot of times we demand these things stay open for, like freshwater flush, for example, that it may stay open for 5, 7, up to 12 minutes. Okay, that makes a huge difference. Okay, it's basically, if you don't understand what a coil is, let me see if I can grab it. This is basically a coil itself. It's nothing but wires wrapped around a little stainless steel tube where a plunger sits inside. Okay, and it just slides right in here. Let me put this one here so you can see better. My little plunger sits right in there. When we energize this with 12, 24 volts, that coil, it's just a coil of wire. When we energize a coil like that into a solid piece like this, it magnetizes the coil, snaps that coil in. And the action of closing and opening that coil is done electrically. Okay, it just pops open like this. So let me give you an example of one real quick. Here's a little coil. Let me drop it. Can you see way over here, Miss Stacy?
Yep.
Okay, I'm going to try to hold it. Sometimes it'll go flying. I'm going to give it 12 volts for my little transformer here. And can you see that really good? Here we go. Boom, see that smack in? That's because I've just given it 12 volts. As soon as I take the 12 volts away, it probably pop right out. Boom, there it is. Okay? So what we do with these coils is, say for example, this manifold right here. This is a perfect example. Here's the coil, here's the tube inserted. Okay? Coil's over there. This is going to go to your 12 volt, 24 volt source. Basically, this is your freshwater flush coil. When your system calls for a flush after each use and every 5 days or 30 days if you got a Z-ion system, okay, that will energize this for the amount of time it's set, say 5 minutes. If the problem with that, and that's great, it'll open up. We've got fresh water coming in from outside, from your house pressure pump. That little plunger opens up, boom, by dropping it down like this, really sits in here like this, pulls up, the fresh water flows through it under your house pump pressure, moving to your Watermaker, excuse me, evacuating, pushing forward all the fresh water to push the salt water out overboard through your brine discharge. Okay, these, like I say, can be a problem. I want to show you a coil that I've actually dissected slightly. Okay, these are the coil wires, and you can see there's quite a bit of it there. But if you notice, these are pretty darn thin wires. These aren't much thicker than a strand of hair. So if we come to our little micrometer here, whoop, let me turn it on, make sure it's zeroed out. So I want to show you something. We're zeroed out, we're on inches. I'm just going to measure this wire, and that's 0.0135 inches. Very fine. Okay? What happens if it's a coil? It's pretty much almost a dead short with a little resistance in it. This works and operates just like the eye on an old stove, you know, when they start glowing cherry red. Basically the same theory. This will tend to start heating up, and it can get very hot. Okay, almost too hot to the touch. Okay, because these wires are so small. That's resistance to heat, because we're feeding an electrical current. As it heats up, hotter and hotter and hotter, we start losing resistance to the wire. making it harder and harder for the electricity to flow through that itty bitty wire. This is where it generates the heat. And these can get extremely hot. The problem with this, after a while, it just starts wearing these things out, and it can be fairly soon. Okay, it's not the most reliable thing to open and close that plunger. Okay, and how hot can they get? I've got an example here. This was actually a coil that was sat in here. This was for a freshwater flush coil. It got so hot, just melted that away. And of course, now we've got leaking water. Your house pressure pump's kicking on, flooding fresh water out of your boat. They also can get pretty cruddy inside. You can see these are pretty rusty. It's a Watermaker. And if you notice on the back of this is another one that got so hot that it started cracking the casing as well. That's the same coil as this one here. What I found in the older model Specters and some of the older other Watermakers, we use these round type coils. Okay, the evolutionary concepts. And if you look at the wattage rating on these things, I don't know if we can see it. It's watts, or this is a 14 watt coil. Well, unfortunately, this was discontinued by the manufacturer, so other companies went to this smaller coil, which is basically a 10 watt coil. If you can see it right there, my fingernails, 10 watt coil. Okay, there's a 4 watt difference. That's huge. And something like this, especially when you're getting that kind of resistance. So what we're worried about is the heat and the failure of it to pull that plunger in. It gets too much resistance and wears these little thin wires out. It may pull that plunger up, but usually it'll drop it right back and close off your freshwater flush. Problem with that on your control panel, say, hey, we're flushing for the 5 minutes, but it's not. It's just saying electronically that it is. And this is where we run into a lot of problems. Okay, so these 10 watt coils are really not going to hang out for you for real long. I get a lot of problems with these things. There's a solution for the freshwater flush that I'll show you in a later video for that. And also because these plungers themselves sit in water 24/7, they'll end up getting corroded up pretty bad. This is, oops, sorry. This is a stainless. This is 316 stainless steel. You kind of messed up the plunger in it because I had to grab that with a pair of pliers to finally pull it out. But you see all the pitting in there. Stainless steel pits. I don't care, even good 316 stainless steel will pit if it sits in water 24/7. You start leaching a little bit of the nickel out of the steel, which makes it stainless steel. This is what the pitting happens. It's not rust, it's just pitting. It's leaching. Okay? They should be looking nice and smooth and pretty like this. Okay? So, the 14 watt coils are the best if you still have them in there. And they'll probably end up looking a little like this. Sometimes if they stop working, it's because these coils get garbaged up inside. It's a matter of disassembling it, pull this coil out. I usually take a little wire brush on the back of a drill like this, just jam it in there on a drill bit, clean that inside out, and just gently, without that one, gently clean these off. Not the rubber, and that's actually making the watertight seal. And usually you put them back together, they work perfectly fine. Or you can do what I do, just test them, take them out with the coil in it, like this one, for example. Let's turn this back on. And they are not positive, negative, sensitive. We can put this wire in either positive or negative. See if this one works. There it is. Boom. See, that was a nice and strong. Okay. That's your 14 watt coil opposed to your little wimpy 10 watt coil. Okay. So if you're having problems with your freshwater flush is not working, the best way to find out on this is if you put it into a freshwater flush, go out to your outside of the boat where your brine discharge is going overboard, you should be seeing a flow of water. You won't see as much as you do when it's normally operating because it's a much more flow, but we should see a flow of water coming out of your brine discharge. That will indicate that this coil is working. One of the other problems with this, when we first started using these coils many years ago, a couple decades back, we weren't putting Watermakers on huge yachts. They were just getting started at smaller boats, and what we were finding is your house pressure pump on these smaller boats are very small. We'd be getting out 25, 30 pounds, 35 pounds of pressure coming out of a small pump. We had maybe 80 gallons of water tank each, so we weren't looking for big massive pumps to take strong showers. Efficiency was still important. Now, as the boats have gotten a lot larger, okay, people are demanding more water, higher pressures, and now we're getting into house pressure pumps that instead of 35 psi are bumping up to 60, 70 psi. So that comes out nice and strong in the shower, or if you're wash down pumps and what have you. We're tied into that system. So what can also happen is this plunger let's say here's a perfect example of the manifold. You'll notice those holes inside are very, very small. Okay, so now my plunger sits right over the middle of that, and it's normally de-energized, so that sits down on that and prevents the intake water going to the output water to flush our system. Now, with a 35 PSI pump, this is perfectly fine. That spring will hold it down. But now then we start putting bigger and bigger pumps. The pressure is greater, and it will actually start just lifting that, pushing that up a little bit because of the pressure, and we get a leak by. Very, very small. But let it sit and do that for a day and a half, and it will drain 200 gallons of water out of your freshwater tanks. So not my favorite. There are solutions to this that we have here at Halden Marine Service that will make that impossible to happen for you. And we won't use the coils. So that's just I wanted to give you an idea of what coils are doing, how they operate, and why they're going to give you fits. Keeping on top of these things is important. Normally when you hear when your system's going to a freshwater flush, you'll actually hear that plunger snap up. It'll go snap as soon as it hits freshwater flush. Snap. Then you know it's opening and closing. If you don't hear that snapping, it's time to pull it apart. Turn your house pressure off. There should be a shut-off valve on the input of your charcoal filter. Shut that off, take it apart, disassemble it, and clean it up. Make sure that it's doing it. You could even take, just like I do, just take this to a 12-volt battery, touch it, the plunger bounces up and down, we're good to go. Okay, coils are very important to keep an eye on, especially your freshwater flush. You also use the same coils in your product diversion valves. This is the valve that sends 12 volts to a coil that either sends your product water, freshwater made, to your tank if it's happy with the quality of water, or it goes overboard with the brine discharge so it doesn't put bad water in your tank. A lot of times I hear people will call us up, JT, I've been running this Watermaker for 5-6 hours and my tanks just aren't getting full. Almost always it's going to be that coil. If you're getting the good green light or the little raindrops in the barrels that people have the Connect system, that coil should be open and sending water to your tank. If you see the raindrops or you see the good light on the MPC controls, that coil should be open and you should be getting water to your tank. Best way, go right down to your tank. It should be just plugged in either with a screw-on fitting or a push fitting like a John Guest. Pop that off. There's water coming out, your coil's working. If there's not water coming out, it's just going overboard with your brine discharge, and you could run this thing forever and you're never going to put any water into your tanks. So coils are very important. Anytime you have any things like that, give me a shout and we'll help you get through this. Also, if you notice on this coil, they're both the same coil, 14-watt coils. One's a black wire and one's a white wire. If you have the black wires, yours is a 12-volt coil. If you have the white wires, it is a 24-volt coil. So we got to make sure we get the right one if we are going to replace this. Okay? So any questions, like I said, you have our number. Give us a shout, phone call or email. Any questions on that, we'll walk you through it. These are critical in any Watermaker. If these fail, and we're not making water. There are ways to get around this, especially on your freshwater flush coil. This is what it would basically look like. The plunger's in here. What we will do, on your charcoal filter, you should have a small blue valve, an on and off valve. Okay? What we can do, if this coil fails and this plunger fails, take this apart, take the plunger out, and put it back in. This is just an emergency freshwater flush so you can get you through your cruise until you can fix proper repairs. Now, without that plunger in there, it's a free flow of water. Just go back to the little blue valve on the input to your charcoal filter, or there's a shut-off valve. Run your Watermaker, make water, do everything you want for a few hours, but you'll still have to come down here, and then when it goes to a flush, you'll basically hit the flush on your automatic control, open that blue valve, and it just free flows right through the manifold, flushing your system. But don't forget to turn those valves back off at the end of the flush. Okay? That's very important, so we don't drain our tanks. That would be the emergency way to freshwater flush your system, and that's an important little trick right there to remember anyway. Just remove the plunger, put it back together. Now we free flow our water, and we use our shut-off valves on our intakes to charcoal filter to flush our system. There you go.